To all my viewers, welcome to Gajali program on Prudent Media. Today we have with us the youngest Indian ever to have summited the Everest. It's indeed an incredible feat. He's none other than Arjun Vajpai from Noida. He achieved this on 22nd of May 2010 at 6:18 a.m. He also has to his credit of having summited Mount Lhotse, that is the fourth highest peak in the world, in May 2011, and then in September 2011, Mount Manslo in Nepal. That's rather incredible. Arjun, I'm sure this has been an ascending goal to your to this Everest. So how did you go about it? Was it very difficult, or was mountaineering or trekking has always been a passion with you?
Absolutely, generally what happens is people climb Everest and then they say, it's like a climb which can last anybody a lifetime. But, what can I say, after summiting Everest in May 2010 and 22nd of that month at 6:18 a.m. in the morning, the view which I got from there, it was so addicting that I said, I have to do more of this. For a 16-year-old, going up Everest is not every day which you see. But still, my maybe you can call it my my hunger for adventure was still not fully satiated, and I said, let's go for it. So from the summit of Everest, I saw another 8,000-meter mountain called Mount Lhotse, which is the fourth highest mountain and is graded as the fourth most treacherous mountain in the world. So summited that on the 20th of May 2011 at again 11 something Nepalese time, and I think that was another very difficult climb which I did. But apart from that, I started this journey called the Ultimate Grand Slam Challenge, which is, only 23 people in the whole world have completed this journey. It basically consists of 14 8,000-meter mountains in this world. 8,000 meters is a mark set by mountaineers because above that is called the dead zone. Above, when your body is above 8,000 meters, almost 24,000 feet above sea level, your brain cells start to die.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Absolutely.
I just want to know, how did all these start? What was the takeoff point in the very beginning, before you even thought of Everest? As a child, how did that all start?
Well, actually, my journey in mountaineering started pretty early. I was just 10 years old. I was in Pune, trekking I was actually for summer vacation, I was at my grandparents' place. Okay. And what happened was, it happened to be that my father's friend, his coast mate from the army, Colonel Jodh Singh Dhillon, was here for a trekking program, and he said, okay, Arjun, let's go for a trek into the Sahyadris. And we ended up climbing Hanuman Tekri, and it was just like an evening walk, but for me it was like for a 10-year-old it was like a big thing. I've always been hearing stories about mountains from him, and he was the guy who actually introduced me to mountains. So so we were climbing that mountain, and when I saw the sun setting from the top of Hanuman Tekri, that was my time when I said, maybe I should do more of this. The feeling of basically being on top of the world. For a 10-year-old, being on top of Hanuman Tekri was the feeling.
So it was the Sahyadris which sort of inspired you to do this. Okay, how did you train to be a mountaineer?
Basically, this professional training started pretty late. I was like 15. Which in the field of mountaineering is again actually pretty early, but there's a big gap between my start when I was 10 to 15. I used to do a lot of trekking before that, but I did my first professional course at Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi. I did my basic mountaineering course, and I always had this dream of climbing Everest. When I was on the top of Hanuman Tekri in Pune in the Sahyadris, I said, if it is so beautiful from here, I don't know how beautiful can it be from the summit of Everest, So this thing was there in my mind, but I never had that kind of a confidence that actually told me that let's go and climb Everest. But this kind of a confidence was nurtured at NIM, where I took proper training. So
that was your basic mountaineering
course. I took basic training in basic ice climbing, rock craft, ice craft, and snow craft. Got good grades, and then instructors were really happy with my performance. Generally, even the age limit for these courses is 17.
Yeah, that's true.
But then they said if you want to give it a shot, let's see. Right. So then it took me in the course, got good grades. People were really happy with the performance. They called me for the advanced course again. Did the advanced course in the same year. And that was the time when I ended up climbing my first real mountain, I would say. It was called DKR2. It's about 18,892 feet high. And we summited that during our advanced course climb. It was a part of our advanced course. So we summited that mountain, and that was the time when actually, instructors said, maybe you have the mettle to do Everest,
To do the Everest.
But generally, people above 15,000 feet, you're not able to react properly, and, till now what has happened that, maybe what scientifically they say is, my lung capacity is maybe much more lesser than what a 30-year-old would have. Yeah. So,
so as a youngster,
what they said was, if you're able to perform so well right now, you should definitely go for Everest. You have the right motivation, you have the right, determination for which is required, and plus your body is reacting very well at above in high altitudes.
And what was the preparation required for the Everest in terms of your exercises, in terms of your diet?
Yeah, when actually what happened was, this was like a totally different thing, which I would say fell upon my family, because this doesn't happen every day. When I told my mom, that I want to climb Everest, and she started laughing at me, yeah, sure, let's see. Till all this time she was like, maybe I'll do the basic course, I'll see the hardships of mountaineering, and I would someday give it up someday. But then they didn't know that maybe, I was actually getting addicted to this whole thing. So, this whole thing started, and we were like, my only source of information was my, mentor, who I now call Colonel Dillon, who my father's course mate. He's been the principal of IISM. He's actually currently leading the Indian Institute of Skiing and Mountaineering in Gulmarg, and he's been the principal of HMI, Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. Yeah. So he's quite an experienced mountaineer. So he was my only source of information, and my training started so on under his guidance. He was like, starting to pull tires every day in the morning, was on a special diet.
So actual tires?
Actual tires, absolutely. And, my neighbors used to start calling me the ghost who walks. I used to get up early, 3 o'clock in the morning, start putting tires on, Noida roads. And then, convincing, climbing Everest was a difficult task. But, before that I had to climb another Everest, which was convincing my mother, to actually let me go.
In all this, how did you cope up with your studies? Because obviously you must have been going through the college.
Studies actually didn't cope up, I would say, to be very honest.
Okay.
Yes, I actually, even my school was very supportive, ran National Group of Schools. Okay. Because from the very initial beginning, I was always seen outside. I was the team. I was the captain of my basketball team.
More of an outdoor person.
I was the captain of my football team, volleyball team, and the skating team.
So basically, you had it in you.
Yeah, I was always an outdoor person, and so. Teachers didn't, teachers weren't much surprised when they, said
when you wanted to do this.
When I wanted to do this.
All right.
Yeah, I had my school supporting me, and in a very crucial time, when I just finished my 11th and I got into my 12th, I summited Lhotse and both Manaslu in my 12th, which is considered
that's fantastic.
Board. So they were like, they were really happy that I at least passed my 12th boards.
Yeah, Arjun, I have read some of the books on Everest expeditions, like Into Thin Air and The Climb, and I know that there are various camps at various altitudes. Now, according to you, which campsite is most challenging or more dangerous, and why?
Well, it would be rather very, bad on my part to say a camp is not challenging, especially on Everest. It's like you cannot expect anything.
No, I'm talking about the technicality of it, which is more technically more challenging.
Technicality, but the higher you go, the more difficult it gets. So basically, as you told, there's camps set up, and you have to acclimatize on those camps. You cannot just go walking up in one day. That's why it takes about 1.5 months to climb Everest. But yeah, from my experiences, the most difficult camp which I experienced was at Camp 4, like the highest camp.
That's called the South Col?
It is at the area called the South Col.
Yeah.
So it's about almost at about 8,000 meters, a little bit above 8,000 meters, and that is the time when you can actually feel that yes, your body is basically shutting down.
Your lungs
are filling up with water. There's water seeping between your brain and your skull. Your body is slowly shutting down, your stomach muscles are contracting, basically your body is not meant to survive.
So basically you are sort of succuming to the high altitude, the altitude sickness.
That's why, the day we reach Camp 4, the same night we leave for the summit push. So that the lesser time we spend in higher altitude, the better it is.
The better it is.
Yeah, so that was one of the most challenging things which I faced.
Okay, Arjun, a school of mountaineers think that using supplementary oxygen is against them. There are some mountaineers who try to do the summit without supplementary oxygen.
Absolutely.
Now, in your opinion, is supplementary oxygen a must, and if so, I mean, at what point would you start with supplementary oxygen?
First of all, coming to your last question, first thing is I started using supplementary oxygen basically generally from 7,000 to 7,300 meters according to my health, which is almost about 23,000 feet. I started using supplementary oxygen from that altitude. Coming on second, for my case, I generally do use supplementary oxygen because doctors have said me being young and I cannot afford, my lung capacity is less and I cannot afford to lose a lot of brain cells right now.
Yeah.
As it is, I have really less. That's what my sister says. But yeah, so basically, for my case, I have to use me being young. I really want to do. People say, "Do you want to climb Everest?" I say, "I really do," but one day without oxygen. So till the date I don't feel that I'm ready to climb Everest without oxygen, I won't go back there. And according to the School of Mountaineers, yes, to go, it is actually quite difficult to go without oxygen.
Actually.
It's like a totally different challenge altogether by itself going without oxygen. But
but I think there are some people who attempt that, right?
There are some people who attempt it, and it's like there are just a handful of people who've actually summited Everest also without oxygen. You can actually I can count them on my hands, and
I'm sure
I've seen people climbing without oxygen, and I've seen. And the only time when I feel that I've made the right decision by using oxygen was when I was at Camp 3 and we were going up, and this Russian climber was coming down. He summited and he's coming down, and we were supposed to open Camp 3, but he was already up there, and he came down, and we went to the tent to ask how the weather is up at Camp 4. And he was dead. He had actually he maybe crossed his limit. He didn't know till what extent maybe his body could take. So when he finally started resting, his body couldn't actually recover. So he was in his tent. He passed away at that moment at 7,300 meters. Generally people say once you've summited and after coming back down, the lower you come, the better you feel. But that wasn't the case.
I think that's quite a crazy thing, to try to push yourself without supplementary
That is what is the case. People die with supplementary oxygen also. So it's basically you don't know where to draw the line. What is your limit and what is going beyond your limit.
Right. Arjun, we'll take a small break now, and we'll come back in a minute's time. Keep watching Prudent Media. Thank you.